Round 10 of the NPL Victoria weekend comes to a close at George Andrews Reserve under the Saturday night lights. A time slot, a fixture that as always in historic years gone by delivered goals and drama. We're hoping for more of the same tonight as the reigning champions of the league, Avondale, travel east to take on Dandenong Thunder. An Avondale team flying high after a big win 2-1 against the Oakley Cannons last week at Jack Edwards Reserve. Plenty to talk about in relation to that game. Plenty of football to come here, but for the meantime, we are going to pause here for a minute's silence to mark the passing of some members of the Albanian community. Respectfully observed minute silence here at George Andrews, marking the passing of members of the Albanian community, a place here that obviously holds a lot of significance to that sect of the community in Victoria and in Victorian football. As we turn our attention to the action that awaits us tonight, it is Avondale looking to get a win on the road to jump back into the top two and leapfrog Heidelberg. They pulled off a massive win last week against the Oakley Cannons, a statement performance at Jack Edwards. Their first 3 points at that venue since 2015. It also saw them win silverware in round 9. Yes, I did say that correctly. Community Shield winners after that game. There is no silverware on offer for them tonight, but the 3 points will be hotly contested against the Dandenong Thunder side, who are looking to make George Andrews Reserve a fortress once again. Last week, they returned home with their tail between their legs, a 3-0 defeat to Port Melbourne. And while this traditionally is a place that sides don't like to come and play, Dandenong Thunder are yet to take a point here at home. So looking to put that right tonight, get the fans on their back and get their first result at home of 2023. It is a tough task against Avondale, but George Andrews is a place where anything can and often does happen. So we're looking forward to the football tonight. Thank you for your company wherever you may be tuning in from on NPL Victoria YouTube. Lockie Flanagan joined alongside tonight by Bryce Ruthven. Bryce, you've had the pleasure of a few games here at George Andrews this season, and season's gone by too. It never disappoints.
Evening, Lockie. Yeah, you're spot on. A couple of games that I've witnessed here on the microphone have been very entertaining, and that's one thing you're going to get with these two sides. Obviously, as Lockie said, one side looking to jump into the top 2, the other that have just turned it over, the home side looking to get into that top 6.
And it's Stefan Zinni, the man on the march, who's just corralled into the corner by the Thunder back line. A couple of changes for either side in the 11s today. The big one for Dandenong Thunder, and it is a bit of a blow. Their star attacking midfielder Derry Korth, the number 10, who started last week in that defeat to Port, drops out of the squad altogether, although that does give a chance on the bench for Lewis Heising, who comes into the side. It's a similarly big blow for Avondale in midfield. Yite Towns, another who drops all the way out from the starters to the sideline. And Joey Katavian is in for his second start of the NPL Victoria season, and he'll be hoping, Bryce, that it goes a little bit better than the first one because he was red carded.
Yeah, not what do you want for Katavian, but yeah, look, it's going to be a matter of which side gets that early breakthrough. I think here at round 10, it's obviously a hard place to come. Conveniently, not a massive turnout, surprisingly, for a Dandenong Thunder game. It is a cooler Saturday evening in Dandenong southeast. You'll see the ball come over.
It's Zinni against the byline, just stands up at his man and can't find clean passage past the feet of Jay Romanovsky. 10th consecutive start of the season for him. He's eclipsed the tally that he racked up coming through the junior ranks at Port Melbourne. It is interesting, as you said, Bryce, but it is maybe a little bit quiet here at George Andrews so far. Perhaps that's working to the benefit of Avondale as Stefan Zinni breezes on by and stands up an inviting cross, but no white shirts in and around. It was Wade Decker who was able to clear lines and distribute before Jordan Smiley picked up a pressure relieving free kick for Thunder, whistled by Andrew Memorakis, the man in the middle tonight.
And just a noticeable difference to the Dandenong Thunder side from previous weeks. Adam Pittick looking like he's made a bit of a change defensively. It's very much a 4-4-2 defensive structure where they have really been a 4-3-3 side over the past few weeks, maybe even, to be fair, looking at a 4-4-2 going forward. So he's obviously identified that he's got to hit certain areas and target, I guess, Avondale in the wide areas at the right and left back. Will it work to success? We'll see how it goes.
The feet of Pierce Clark. An interesting game in prospect. You would expect Avondale to go in the heavy favourites, and they have had the early knockings, but Thunder need a response to last week's disappointing defeat under Adam Peake. This would be a good way to get it, but Avondale building nicely here down the right-hand channel. Ball played into the path of Kerr. It was a clever first touch, but he just showed a bit much to the Thunder defence, and now Smiley can turn and wheel away, and the Thunder can maybe find an opening as they carry it down the left-hand side of screen. Oh, the switch of play just squeaks its way out to Mersin Mehmeti as it comes for Burke and Kurdar. One of the many new faces for Thunder this season, but so far one of the brightest. Karance, and now wide on the right, a teasing cross into the middle, and Smiley just can't latch onto it, but Kurdar keeps it alive. A lovely swivel, but the shot is blocked by a sea of bodies. Another chance though for the Thunder, and Trajewski cleverly is going to able to buy a bit of time, but only a bit of time. The Thunder keep up this relentless pressure in the front third. As in comes the cross. In fact, it was a shot direct. Launching up the arm in protest that time, Ali Suleimani, that it was a corner, and it is a corner, and it's a very good patch of play from Dandenong Thunder.
And some classy work in the middle of the park for Kadur. I think the one thing that I noticed, especially the other week, Lockie, was he was the man of the match on a losing side against South Melbourne for me. And I think what Adam Pittock has done with this 4-4-2 transition has been actually given the likes of Kadur and Edwards the space to play and a bit more room. So I think it's going to work out quite well going forward, as you just saw.
Should be a big opening goal. It's decently shaped, the corner ball, and they'll have another crack. Or rather, Mersin Mehmeti will be the man to swing it in once again. Kurdar is making a pretty energetic and insistent run short, but long it goes, and looping towards the back post, swung into the middle and prodded just wide in the centre. It was Daniel Alessi who just managed to peel off at the back post and divert it back into the middle. And who got the final touch? I think it remains up for debate. I know there were a few Thunder players who protested that it might have been a corner, a third successive one, but Avondale have taken the goal kick.
I do like the offering there of Kadur trying to play the short corner, because all it will do is actually open up Avondale's defence. So I think if they can sneak a few of them through the Thunder, they've got some tall timber at the back in terms of Aiden Bryce and the likes for Avondale. So if they can really separate that defensive pack on the set pieces, it might actually work to their favour.
Suleimani and Wade Decker, the two players who attacked it at the near post earlier, or the far post rather. And it's Decker on the ball now. Just about manages to keep it under his spell and distribute to Smiley. And in it comes Suleimani. Karance prods it back across the face. And there was a player in an offside position, Wade Decker. So another promising forward venture comes to an end for the Thunder.
It's not the first time tonight we've already seen Lockie, the home side, really looking to drive to the back post with the delivery. Obviously they're trying to keep it away from someone like Aiden Bryce, for example, and yeah, maybe that's something that Adam Pittock's identified in the training park during the week.
All the way back to Pierce Clark. Back in Thunder colours this season. Looking for better string of results than last time he was in Thunder colours playing against Avondale. He copped 6 back in 2019. Driving towards the byline, Karance. Kamara just gets his foot in the right place at the right time. And Kerr skins his marker. A bit of trickery from one of Avondale's brightest new signings, and the switch is for Zinni, who loves to bear down on goal, takes a touch, and now Avondale will have a corner of their own.
It's funny, these two sides met in a pre-season fixture that resulted in a lot of goals to the away side, but since then there's been a bit of a player turnover at Thunder. I think already what you're starting to see is the efforts there. I think that's when you play a side that is like Avondale, they're obviously going to bring a lot of intensity, a lot of finesse around the edge of the box, as you can see, with Stefan Zinni entering it there as easily as he did. Adam Pittick will definitely want to tighten things up.
Certainly. There are a couple of former Thunder players in the Avondale 11 tonight as well, one of whom is this man taking the corner, Blake Carpenter, looking to create something against his former side. Stood up towards the back post, nodded across goal by Bryce, and Carrance is able to just thwack it away. So Avondale will look to sustain their pressure. Dandenong Thunder will look to keep them at bay. It's a tricky assignment whenever you're playing Avondale, trying to keep them scoreless, but it's especially tricky for a Thunder defence who, Bryce, are still looking for their first clean sheet of the season. They have had a bit of turbulence in there, of course. Aaron Edwards was in there to start the season and has obviously departed. I'll hold that thought for a moment, though, as Decker has a sight of goal, but Tom Manos is able to guide that one pretty easily into his breadbasket. But yeah, still looking to keep a shutout, the Thunder defence in 2024. I don't mean this with any disrespect, but it's going to be tough if they're going to tick it off for the first time tonight.
I think, too, losing a fortnight ago, Gavin Denise to a season-ending injury as well. He was their defensive midfielder and really did, I guess you could say, marshal that midfield from a defensive standpoint.
It seemed like a lot of things were really in Adam Pittick's plans, really set up around what Denise was able to do.
And yeah, I think losing someone like that definitely has to give you a restructure. So when you've got the likes of Cadeau, for example, that's more of a number 8 or a number 10, having to play a bit more defensive, I think that's maybe why we see a change of formation tonight, to give him the room to play. Obviously, the fitness is getting up there for Cadeau. So came into round 1 as a round 1 substitute, not really fully fit, being a late signing, but he's obviously worked in the last couple of weeks, and to me, he's the key man for Thunder tonight.
Well, you read my mind there, because I was just going to bring him up, and maybe the absence of Gavin Denise, while it's not something that they would have wanted, has really allowed Kerdar to step up and make his mark, as Avondale can't quite clear ranks. They're forced to concede a free kick. Looking to take it quickly, and taking it quickly, Aiden Edwards. Over it goes to Suleimani. It's a decently shaped cross too, but stooping down to clear the danger, as he so often is in the Avondale defence, is Aiden Bryce. Yeah, Kerdar certainly not at full fitness to start the season, but definitely hitting his straps now, and 4 goals in 9 games from midfield in your debut year of NPL Victoria. We know, of course, he's played many a time in the A-League with Melbourne Victory, but that's a decent start for someone who is still coming up to the, I guess, physical speed of the comp.
And I think, too, with Korf being out tonight as well, he's definitely added something to that midfield since coming in. And from when I last called the Thunder, they had Aiden Edwards as number 6 and Korf and Kidder in front. So I think not having Korf available, that's obviously, again, led to a 2-person midfield in the middle of the park. And I guess seeing the likes of Wade Decker playing out on the left-hand side, normally, traditionally more see him as number 10 in NPL Victoria, certainly in Thunder colours anyway, but again, it might be something that they've worked out. They can sort of hit Avondale in those wider areas or throughout the wing channels. I don't know. We'll see how it progresses in this first half.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. He's playing a bit of a floating role, is Wade Decker. One thing's for sure, if you're someone who reads into the form book, he does love a goal against Avondale. I think he has, it's 6 in his last few meetings against the Avengers. I think most of those did come in one game, mind you, for Oakley. One of his classic 4-goal hauls, but he's enjoying a consistent run of starts since signing for Thunder, and that's a nicely shaped ball in the Jordan Smiley direction, and in the middle was the man we were talking about, Wade Decker. Manos alert and agile to gobble up the trouble, but a really nice early ball that time from Mercy Mehmeti.
Yeah, and I love the intent there from Mehmeti. Lockie, I think, really put the one-on-one for Jordan Smiley to get on the end of it. And to be fair, he did quite well. Not the tallest man out there, but at the same time, too, that service is what they're going to need across the 90 minutes.
Big chance brewing here, though, as Stefan Zinni is in behind, and a good save to match by Pierce Clark, but the danger not averted. Ahmed looks to drive it in. It's chaos in the middle, and Zinni eventually turns it home. Massive protestations from the Thunder defence. the champions keep on marching, or at least it looks that way. And surprise, surprise, it's Stefan Zinni once again. A 6th goal in the league against Dandenong Thunder. No player has scored more in this fixture. And there is controversy abound at George Andrews Reserve, but Avondale are unmoved.
And watching the replay just now, Stefan Zinni has definitely gone into the back of Pierce Clark, and that's what they're arguing at the moment. I wouldn't say it was forceful contact, but Pierce Clark was definitely retrieving back into his goal line, and Zinni's kind of just, you could say, stood his ground and knocked him to the ground, and it kind of took away the opportunity for Pierce Clark to stop it. So it's obviously not going to change because the referee really doesn't change his decisions, particularly without the assistance of the VAR in NPL Victoria. So it's one of those things they're going to have to just move on from.
Well, it's probably, I dare say, since Zoran Markowski took charge at Avondale Football Club, the ugliest goal they have ever scored. And you can go have a look at it on the replay at home if you're watching on NPL Victoria YouTube, and it does look, Bryce, as though he might have just been in the wrong place at the wrong time, Stefan Zinni, but though he might have just run a bit of interference there on Pierce Clark in the lead up to the goal. But Thunder are looking to turn disappointment into delight as Decker drives forward, and it comes to nothing. A free kick given against the Thunder, but look, it is a bitter pill to swallow, and no team ever wants to suffer a goal in such controversial circumstances. But I do find with Thunder that sometimes when there is a bit of discontent, a bit of anger, that playing angry actually tends to work out quite well for them.
Yeah, absolutely. That happened the other week against South Melbourne here at George Andrews.
And trouble here as Smiley leans onto the right, and is at least, thankfully for Tom Manos, who guides it into his arms, good coverage from the Avondale defence on this occasion.
Yeah, and look, having just seen the replay again, like, I think you could argue a case for both sides, really. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the referee and his decision's final. So, but yeah, as you said, I think adversity is something that Dandenong Thunder don't actually mind playing with. I think they like having their backs up against the wall and having things go against them, as they would probably describe it. And it does sort of bring out a different side of them.
I've found, at least in my visits here, that usually if we get some sort of refereeing or decision-based controversy, it just ends up in some sort of ridiculous 4-3 thriller. And Avondale are at least looking to add to that potential tally as Kerr checks inside. Ahmed lines up from quite a distance. And Joey Katabian picks up the pieces. A great exchange of pass. El Hayek thought he was collected. This time, Andrew Memorakis' whistle is not forthcoming and not to the liking of Avondale, who Thunder will probably feel getting the taste of the same medicine they received just minutes ago. It's a bit of a half-pregnant back header for Manos, who elects not to claim. Well, he couldn't claim. And Cuba, Sian Cuba that is. There are two in the league now. Of course, his brother Diego is out at Moreland City. Played in a fantastic game last night at Olympic Village. So that clean sheet that has evaded Thunder this season through the opening 9 rounds is going to evade them again for round 10. But the good thing for Thunder is, Bryce, that despite the disappointment of the scoreline and the controversial nature through which the scoreline stands, Thunder have actually created some pretty good chances in their own right against the reigning champions of the competition.
I think that comes down to a reflection of the attitude from their coach, Adam Pittick. You know, at Port Melbourne over the years, they've had to definitely face a bit of adversity in different situations, particularly in finals and whatnot. So I think that's kind of been instilled since coming in as late as he did to the preseason. I think it's definitely starting to show as we hit round 10.
Kerr gets the eyes up. Zoran Markowski urging him to back himself, and he may well do just that, but he just showed a bit too much to the Thunder defence, who, well, delayed. And Avondale can win the ball back through Trycheski. Katabian tried to return the favour, and eventually it's Shevdim Ismaili, the Thunder Academy graduate, who is able to just clear ranks. Smiley giving chase. Manos quickly away. There was a bit of a hand in the face there from Jordan Smiley. I don't know. I don't want to jinx anything, Bryce, but I just feel like we've got the makings of something here. It's an interesting game of foot.
If you're a chef, there's a couple of spices floating in the cupboard.
Absolutely. Something is cooking. And I'm not just talking about the Thunder canteen. Which,
to be fair, normally can come at a risk with the Thunder game. And I mean that in the most respect as well, in a polite way too, that it's entertaining for a neutral. So it's, I think one thing I can just sort of see in the transition phase going forward for the Thunder is there's a lot of room for the likes of Carrance and Jordan Smiley to get in between the midfield and defensive line. So I think if they can really find those two boys early, they might get a bit of fun out of it, you could say.
Well, you look at the head-to-head record between these two sides, and it doesn't make for the prettiest reading if you are of a Thunder persuasion. 11 times they've met in NPL Victoria, 8 wins for Avondale, but of those 3 positive results, 2 of them have come here at George Andrews Reserve. So they have shown they can get them, and they've been showing they can get them here on a number of occasions as Smiley... Well, that was a much bigger chance, I think, than Smiley's effort on goal, and his subsequent reaction really gives away. He was in an acre of space on the edge of the box, and the shot was completely skew-whiff. And I know you were drawing my attention to Adam Piddick's reaction on the sideline.
I think if only we had a camera on the Dandenong Thunder coach after that, that would have probably summed up the situation quite well. But look, the positive is, Lockie, that they're getting into those positions. Granted, Jordan Smiley couldn't get his body positioning right to finish that off, but again, they're playing one of the top sides in NPL Victoria, in our opinion, and as the results have said over the years, and I guess they're creating opportunities and causing some damage. So if they persist, they might get the rewards.
I reckon that's the other thing that maybe could add a bit of drama in tonight. We've got 2 coaches in Zoran Markowski and Adam Piddick who are very passionate, very, very animated. We've got some good ones in this league. I think your idea of potentially setting up a GoPro in front of them that's potentially a winner. More on that discussion later, though, as Zinni looks to lightning quick chase down that ball, not able to do so. I'm reminded of a game a few weeks back, Oakley v South Melbourne, where you've got Esteban Quintas on one side who's, runs a mile a minute, he's in constant movement. You put a GoPro in front of him, great entertainment.
Yeah.
Chris Taylor, you could run a time lapse of that GoPro, you wouldn't be sure it'd look like a still image. It'd look like a JPEG.
Watch, let's be honest.
It would look like a JPEG.
It'd be a very meditational type vibe, you could say. Adam Piddick, he's not normally bad for a spray on the sideline, so he's definitely worth coming out to George Andrews when you can, or when a Thunder on the road, and watching him play live.
No, he was... those who listen to the effects mic, the background noise beyond our commentary, will often hear Adam Piddick giving some very clear instructions, as he was last week in that 3-0 defeat against his former side, the Port Melbourne Sharks.
This is one thing that Adam Piddick wouldn't want to see his side do: get frustrated, give away unnecessary fouls. More importantly, in good position for Avondale. I think, as we see a quick transition here.
Taken quickly, scooped into the box by Cuba. He might have taken a touch en route, but the Thunder continue to transition, and Jordan Smiley continues to play a very important role in that. It's still early doors, but I've been really impressed with Jordan Smiley's game so far.
Yeah, and Carrance just took the wrong option there, looking to come inside. He had the defender on his inside, could have kept taking his space in the wider area and invite the likes of Alice Almani to come a bit closer to help him out. But I think, again, it's one of those situations for the Thunder where you get the right opportunity to go forward, you don't want to panic, and you just want to settle it down, make the most opportunities, because they might be few and far between.
Lovely first touch from Cuba. Oh, nearly a great second pass to release Stefan Zinni. And Thunder have got to be careful here, because Avondale's counter press was a strong one. And will eventually force enough pressure to regain possession. And Jordan Smiley, very interesting signing this season for the Thunder, of course, a former Mariner. the A-League level. 1 goal in 13 appearances. They've got... Ooh, and that's a strong challenge, though, from the man we've just been talking about. And that could be trouble. It is kicking off everywhere, in every direction, underneath the Kamil Rekshepi grandstand. And Andrew Memorakis has got a decision to make, because Jordan Smiley flew in, and there are players on the turf. And it is a rather ugly scene, however you choose to look at it.
Yeah, it's not ideal, and I have a feeling lucky that we might see a straight red card coming here for Jordan Smiley. I know we're on the opposite side of the pitch, but the challenge did not look great.
Yeah, he flew in at a rate of knots, and it would be such a disappointing end to what has been a very bright start for him. And the most concerning part is that the Avondale teammates of the injured player currently calling for a substitution. Protestations ongoing on the touchline.
This is interesting because all the three officials on the park are over there. The fourth official's handling the coaches, but the Avondale bench are asking why it was a yellow. I don't think I've seen a card issued just yet for the challenge. So
no. Well, I think there's a few other sort of orders of business to try and work out and attend to here, because yes, it could be a yellow card, it could be a red, but there might be some other cards to come as there may well be some other cards to come as well. We couldn't keep eyes on everything that was happening purely for the fact that he broke into two separate scuffles and people were going left, right and centre as we see the stretcher get brought out. I just think it was Christian Trycheski, the player, who was collected as well. And it was not a good challenge in any sense from Jordan Smiley. And now Andrew Memorakis is going to be dishing out some discipline. And it is a straight red card for Jordan Smiley. And I don't think, having watched the replay a number of times, Bryce, that he can have a great deal of arguments about it.
Well, I did say moments ago, from our vantage point, it did look like a horrendous challenge, and I hope that Trycheski is okay as he gets stretched off here past the Thunder boys. Look, to be fair, you've got an experienced player like Pierce Clark in there saying stuff to the boys. You don't really need that, especially as an experienced campaigner, and we do see a yellow card for...
There was at least four that came out in quick succession, so Andrew Memorakis handed them out like they were going out of fashion. And so unfortunately we've got two players leaving at the same time here, and both for the same, well, for the same event, for different reasons. And 4 yellow cards. I made out one went in the Pierce Clark direction. I think one was for Sian Cubat, perhaps another for Thomas Manos, but they were all in such a cluster that it was really anyone's guess. And so George Mells is going to come on and come into the fray of a fixture that, well, was bubbling along really nicely, but has just turned a little bit sour. And Jordan Smiley, certainly, Bryce, if we just desperately try to bring some brevity to the last few minutes here, is the latest victim of the commentator's curse, because literally we're talking about how good a start he'd had to the game.
Yeah.
Lays in a massive reducing tackle and is sent off.
Yeah, and look, having called a couple of their games in the first 10 rounds of the season, does seem easy, I suppose, susceptible to a bit of a brain snap, you could say. You don't want to see those sort of challenges. I get that players are passionate and whatnot, but it did seem quite a reckless challenge, and I think it was well handled by the officials. I think, as you can see on the stream, if you're watching us at the moment, that's a hard situation to handle for any referee. So to handle it as well as they had, you've got to really congratulate the officials, because that could have really escalated a lot worse than it did.
Yeah, there was no rushing into any decisions. Andrew Memorakis took a good bit of time to decide who was worthy of tickets dished out to them. And so we do eventually bring play back underway. George Mells into the fray for the Avengers. which is the 5th time we've seen him in an Avondale shirt this season. Formerly one of Adam Pittock's best players at Port Melbourne. Still is a quality player, but I can't help but think that his involvement in the game really comes at what cost, because Christian Trajewski is one of the best midfielders in this competition, and never a good look to bring him off on the stretcher. So we might have some more officiating to do here. Andy Vargas goes into the book. Yellow ticket for dissent for the Avondale assistant coach, who we were talking about lively head coaches. Andy Vargas is probably the race leader for emotive, passionate assistant coaches.
Well, to be fair, it has been coming, because he's been chewing the fourth official's ear off since the incident happened. It was dealt with on the field, move on. You've got an advantage with a player on the park. Yeah, you've lost one, but you also gained an advantage too. Carpenter
hooks one in and away, only as far as the edge of the box before a more emphatic clearance comes to fruition from Wade Decker. So a recap of all the chaos if you were late to join us. Does always do drama, George Andrews, but this has been in a bit of a different kind of way. Stefan Zinni, the opening scorer, early doors in somewhat controversial circumstances, and now Thunder are down to 10 after a red card from Jordan Smiley, a poor challenge that saw really an all-in altercation and 4 subsequent yellows dished out. So a lot of paperwork for the referees after this one.
Yeah, absolutely. They won't be getting out of here before midnight, but at the same time too, I'm interested to see how Avondale respond to this. They've got the 1-goal advantage, and they're going to have a lot more space to play with. Avondale, that type of side, that they work very well in tight areas. So having an opportunity to play with a bit more space, obviously the Thunder are going to sit more defensively and try and tighten things up at the least for the remaining 15 minutes of this first half, and then probably do a reset of a structure change then. But yeah, we'll see how they go, because I think it's one of those things, you can go a bit more direct and try and find a second goal, or do you really try and wear the Thunder down slowly and really crush them in the second half?
Well, it's really, of all the teams you want to go down, Avondale are the best team in the league, I think it's fair to say, at picking you apart just by passing.
Yeah.
To give them more space is never bodes well. Thunder trying to make something happen. Decker, a great ball inside to Mehmeti, and Kamara had to be alert to the danger. Driving forward that time, Daniel Alessi. Just on Daniel Alessi, it speaks to quite an interesting sort of profile of player that Adam Pittock has targeted since he came in at short notice to replace Sam Almarzi. A lot of these sort of players who have played between, 5 to 10 A-League games, had a bit of promise, but things just haven't quite panned out. I mean, Kerdar, Smiley, Alessi, all sort of in that kind of camp.
I think to touch on your point there, I think it doesn't matter if you've played one A-League game or you haven't even played a game, you've been in that system. I think what you bring to NPL Victoria, especially a side like Dandenong Thunder, who, let's face it, if we're being honest, was probably struggling pre-season under Sam Almarzi and had to make a change, but that bit of experience does reflect across the group, and especially with the younger boys, it really can just bring a breath of fresh air to a squad. And look, even Alessi and Kader have definitely had that, in my opinion, anyway.
I think, it's... I'll just hold that thought for a moment as it nearly drops here for Yusuf Ahmed. It's the profile of player is one thing, but I think it's also my point is more about how long it's taken the side to sort of gel because of how late everything happened, how many signings Adam Pittock had to make late in the piece. They've kind of been having their pre-season and learning the pieces of the system while the campaign has actually been going. So there are good pieces there. It's just still a process of getting them, I guess, all to sing from the same hymn sheet, which is a lot easier when they all stay on the park.
Well, understanding a bit through a family connection that has obviously played under Adam Pittock for a number of years, the pre-season is used to get the structures right going for round one. So to obviously come in a couple of days or really a couple of weeks prior to round one, it doesn't give you much time. So to be fair, they've done quite well. I think a lot of people expected the Thunder to not really win a game for the first couple of weeks. or even a couple of months. So they've done very well to at least establish some sort of base formation. And then I think second half of the season, we will see the Thunder really progress.
This is good, though, from the Thunder. Decker tried to just do it all himself. But there was some reasonable play in the lead-up. Good aerial work by Josh Carrance. Oh, great ball for Yusuf Ahmed, who's in behind, and there is only one result when that is what happens. Yusuf Ahmed doubles the lead for Avondale, and a goal at the place he used to call home for the former Thunderman.
And that was a great ball to him, and a great first touch to set himself up. Easily past Pierce Clark, and some great bit of play there from Avondale.
Now, when Yusuf Ahmed gets in that sort of position and is played through with a ball as brilliant as the one we just saw, I mean, Pierce Clark could stand anywhere he liked. There was almost certainly only going to be one outcome, and Yusuf Ahmed, the Somali international, gets his 4th goal of the season, and it's another assist for Sian Cuba. And that was...
It was a great ball.
That is one you're going to want to watch on the replay a couple of times. He had a fantastic assist for Stefan's in his opener last week, Sian Cuba against Oakley. He's got another to his name this time around. And, you know, there were people left sort of scratching their heads as to why the likes of George Mells and Liston Diaz were left on the bench at the start of the season when Cuba rocked up at short notice from South Melbourne. They're getting their answers. They are getting their answers.
Well, I think the one thing...
Oh, Carrance, a good cross into the middle. It drops for Romanovsky at the back post, who tries to buy a yard, but Carpenter did really well, and so too did Aiden Bryce. Ever the figure of composure, but the cross a little shallow, and Kurtar, well, lines up a long shot, but nothing doing.
Well, I think the one thing that Avondale are definitely looking to plan for with the years coming, and what they have as a club ahead of them with the National Second Division, is to build a squad with depth. And I think that's one thing you do see the advantage of it. A lot of people question why certain players go to a club, say like Avondale, and don't get much game time through different patches for whatever reason. And because they've built a big squad, you don't win an NPL Victoria season with a minimal squad. So I think they've done the right thing. They've obviously got big things to plan for next year, and look, it's working well for them at the moment. You've got the likes of, as you said, George Mells that we've seen come on. You've got George Ott, another striker as well that would start in any other team probably week in, week out. But they come to a club like this because they see the bigger picture.
Absolutely. Not just in this league, but maybe in other leagues to come, potentially. Avondale, one of the 8 foundation national second-tier clubs, still set to kick off in April/March of 2025. I've been hearing a few rumours and rumblings that there are a few other Victorian clubs hoping to join them. Melbourne Knights, we know, won't be one of them. Bit of a shallow header away by Romanovsky, but only Suleimani able to secure possession, the Thunder captain. It just sits perfectly for the aforementioned Suleimani, and a great exchange of pass between he and Carrance, but a strong challenge from Joey Katabian.
I think that little passage of play we've just seen there, where Aiden Bryce misjudged the
Mikey! Come! Move it, Frosty. Good. Keep it in. Keep it, Mikey. Smart. Patient. Good. Other side to Luke. Keep it moving, son. Hey, Joey. Joey's going nowhere, Joey. What are you fouling for? Fucking stupid, that fucking man. Patient, keep the ball. Put the ball to the work. Well done.
No problem, Khalil. All right, next one.
to George Andrews Reserve in the eastern suburbs of Victoria. And we've got, well, the second half of what has been a drama-filled game, but not necessarily in the way that we've come to expect of George Andrews Reserve, and in other ways, very much what we've come to expect from George Andrews Reserve. Avondale in control, 2-0 they lead. Thunder down to 10 men after a, well, shocker challenge, I think we can say, from Jordan Smiley, one he'd probably not do if he had his time back. That, unfortunately, as we've heard and had confirmed at the halftime interval, has caused a broken leg, we suspect, for Christian Trycheski, who is currently awaiting transport to hospital. So a really sour note that hangs over proceedings as we get into the second half. But we've seen the coaches exchanging words out of the tunnels at halftime, or into this second half that we're currently playing. And we'll expect some of that bile to continue into the second 45 of this game. It's just a matter of whether that all reflects on the actual score line. And that's the question we're about to find out. Lockie Flanagan, joined as I was in the first half by Bryce Ruthven. Bryce, lots of work to do for the coaches at halftime, lots of paperwork for the referees, and lots of things for us to talk about too.
Yeah, definitely plenty of talking points. And watching the first half, if you are just joining us on the YouTube live stream, welcome, Dandenong. And I tell you what, it's going to be a very spicy second half. We did say that it did have a bit of a feel to it in the early stage of the first half, pre-Jordan Smiley red card for a challenge that, as I said, Christian Trycheski. We do wish him all the best as he does go to hospital for a suspected broken leg. But I think it's not out of the realm for Thunder to get back into this. They're only 2 down on the scoreboard. We've got 45 to play, and look, I think Avondale, they'll want to keep trying to play and try and inflict more damage, but Thunder are just one of those sides, particularly at home, that it just takes one little spark of action and they're into it, and one goal and they're certainly back in it. So look, definitely don't count them out just yet, even though they are a man disadvantaged as well as 2 goals disadvantaged on the scoreboard, but we'll see.
They are a team that tend to thrive in the chaos, and interestingly, Bryce, as you intimated there, you know, they've had good flashes in this game. They've actually edged the shot count. I think it was 10 shots to 7, just looking at the stat attack in the halftime break that flashed up on the live stream. Well, it's very possible that some of Avondale's, a few more of Avondale's have come inside the penalty box than the Thunder, but they did have a few good chances. I mean, Birkin Kurdar had a shot from the corner, cleared off the line. Josh Carrance brought really the absolute best out of Tom Manos. So the signs are there, but they have to keep Avondale at bay. As Mel flicks it over to the opening goal scorer, Stefan Ziggy, looking to add to the tally, looking to draw a penalty, and he does exactly that. Jay Romanowski just slipped in to, well, take a nibble.
And it will be Kerr, the number 25 jersey, to step up and take the penalty. Not the ideal start of the second half that Thunder were probably chasing. Ideal if you're an Avondale supporter. Potentially go 3 up. You can see Piers Clark just looking to bring in some tactics to put off Kerr. As we see our referee just sort out the 18-yard box, and it will be Kerr on this penalty. And he steps up, and it's a great save from Piers Clark down to his left. Score remains 2-0 in favour of Avondale, and it will result in a corner, but some great work there from Piers Clark and Thunder teammates. And reaction here from Piers Clark on maybe the decision of the corner results in the yellow card for the Dandenong Thunder goalkeeper. I'm not too sure exactly what his case of argument was. Maybe in terms of being a goal kick. And it looks as though the decision has been changed. So I'm not sure what's going on for Pierce Clark, but he has resulted in getting a yellow card, and it will be a goal kick to the home side.
Okay, well that at least, Bryce, solves some of the mystery of earlier on in this game when we thought that perhaps Pierce Clark might have been one of the 4 players who went into the book after that incident. So he definitely wasn't, because he's now picked up his ticket. It's the 5th yellow card of the day, the 6th card total. Of course, the red being the one shown to Jordan Smiley.
It's an interesting one, Lockie, in that situation. Pierce Clark, obviously the yellow card would stand, but I wonder what changed his mind, because I'm sure that our referee would have consulted with his assistant, who did signal for the corner in the initial instance. So it's always a bit of a comedic value to a game of NPL Victoria at different times. The scores do remain at 2-0, courtesy of a great save there from the man we were just speaking of, Pierce Clark. As the ball comes central to Carrance. Turns the ball over. Kerr doing some defensive duties as well and playing it forward to Cuba. He turns it over, but the ball comes wide to Blake Carpenter. Plays it narrow through the channels and a great turn in the middle to find Zini. He'll get the strike away, and that is the 3rd goal of the evening for Avondale FC in the 51st minute. A simple bit of play through the centre corridor, and they are 3-0 up.
And Stefan Zini, he just makes it look so easy so often. It's the 2nd consecutive week, obviously, where he's gotten himself on the score sheet. 2nd tonight against Dandenong Thunder, an opponent against whom he loves to play. But the 2nd consecutive week where he's had a great chance in on goal and really held his composure, really held his nerve, hasn't looked to blast it past the keeper, just rolled it ever so delicately into the corner. It looks so simple, but it really isn't.
Well, again, it was that man, Cuba, in the midfield for Avondale, slicing and dicing his way through, not with his movement, but with his passing ability to find Zini with an accurate pass to enter the 18-yard box, and that composure from the former A-League player to find the back of the net.
And it's in many respects, albeit from the opposite flank, in many respects, that is a carbon copy of the goal that they scored against Dandenong Thunder, or against Oakley Cannons, I should say, last week, where it was a lovely reverse pass through the lines from Sian Cuba to find Stefan Zini. It's genuinely almost Control-C, Control-V for that 3rd goal from Avondale. And they smell blood in the water as Zini is on a hat-trick now. And he is in the league. Just to recap for those playing along at home. 7th goal that he has scored against Dandenong Thunder. His 3rd in the last 2 games. Of course, scored one in their last meeting, which, if you can believe it, Bryce, was out in Bendigo at Epsom Huntley Reserve, a 5-1 win for the Avengers.
Great venue.
It is a good venue.
Yeah. Just another great ball coming through from Cuba again to find Zini.
And Romanovsky's in trouble here. Stefan Zini, a man on a mission, a man on the march, and he wasn't able to get clean passage in the end. He just showed a bit too much of the ball to the Thunder defender.
And haven't said this too often about Stefan Zini tonight, but that was really a poor option to try and drag the ball into his left foot when he was trying to enter the 18-yard box. I think he definitely had that ball with an opportunity, probably on the following touch, to get a shot away and test out Pierce Clark, but yeah, for some strange reason just decided to try and drag it across his defender.
And yeah, it's bizarre really, because Stefan Zini was so composed to take that 2nd chance. Maybe it's just the occasion of the hat-trick that gets to him, but
he might have another one here too.
There might be more chances afoot for Zini, who checks onto his right, lets the shot rip, and this time it's a simple collection for Pierce Clark, who has been definitely the busier of the two keepers in this first half. In a very good way in some respects, and in other respects not quite as good. So a very solid penalty save, but Avondale has still made it count on the scoreboard eventually.
You can definitely tell that Stefanzini is definitely hungry for that third goal of the evening for himself, and look, the way it's looking in the opening 9 minutes of this half, the chances are going to come down this left-hand side. Maybe defensive structural change from the Thunder. Doesn't appear so as much, but you can hear Adam Pittick probably through our special effects mic really chasing that shape and to keep that discipline. So we'll see how long the Thunder can hold them out for again.
An intricate little pass from Mells, and in turn from Kerr as Zinni looks to turn provider and square it into the middle. But in the right place at the right time was Shevdim Ismaili. But you can hear the calls of Zoran Markovsky. He wanted his number 7 to just keep carrying, just keep going with the ball. He did score a brace on a handful of occasions last season, Stefan Zinni, but no hat-trick in 2023, so a big chance potentially brewing here. Short it goes for Carpenter, who can hit them, can deliver them, decides to do neither. Zinni rolls it short for El Hayek. Carpenter drops it on a dime for Ahmed, who skips round 1 and then 2 challenges, and now Kerr is released on the left and dribbles it into the box, but Pierce Clark gobbles up the ball in front of him. Just needed a little touch from Pierce Clark.
And you've got to admire that passage of play, Lockie from Avondale. Really just the simple one-touch pass and move type football. Just goes to show how effective it is. You get a lot of young players these days being taught that way, and Avondale really are a good example of sticking true to what they try and preach amongst their club, and that was a prime example of it.
Romanowski up the line for Suleimani. Wins a corner for his side, and if you're a Thunder player, that's the best part of George Andrews' reserve, I think, to take a corner from, because you've got all the Thunder fans behind you riding the corner kick. So just glance an eye down to the 4th official, Ugur Arslan. Looks as though we might get a Thunder double substitution very, very shortly. The corner is in without any danger, though, to the goal of Tom Manos.
I think if Thunder do want to get anything out of this game and find a scoreboard, they're going to have to make the most of those set-piece opportunities. I think the delivery is going to have to be a little better than we just witnessed then, to at least just apply a bit of pressure, because you can see the changes are going to come now for the Thunder, and that's simply just to freshen things up for Adam Pittick's side.
Wamet Selamovsky and Benjiba, the players who will come on. Benjiba for just his 5th appearance of the season, 78 all-time in NPL Victoria. Well, this will be, at least, for the formerly long-time South Melbourne defender. Hard to believe it's been almost 5 years exactly, or 6 years, I should say, exactly, since Benjiba actually made his debut for South Melbourne. Still pretty young. Bryce booms it over the top for Kerr. The second ball important and won by the Thunder.
It is good to see Benjiba getting back into the park, having an injury for a lot of pre-season as well, working his way back to fitness. And as you mentioned, we did see him in South Melbourne colours for a long time, and as a youngster coming up through that system, did impress when given the opportunity. So I think in a side like Thunder, it's kind of made for someone like Benjiba to really have an impact on this squad, because he's got the experience in the right environment for a young player, and maybe he can make the most of it in a senior opportunity.
Loop to the back stick, prodded away by Carpenter, and Kerr slipped into the perfect position, and looking to flick it across to Zinni, and doing so. Mells curls one invitingly into the box, and the deftest of touches from Yusuf Ahmed. Well, Stefan Zinni brought up his brace. Yusuf Ahmed does the same. And Avondale are 4 to the good now at George Andrews. Just the simplest of finishes in the middle from Avondale. They make it look oh so easy sometimes. It was Kerr who started the move on the far side, launched the switch over the top to Stefan Zinni. In came the cross from Mells, and Ahmed just with a nonchalant finish at the club, or against the club where his career in NPL Victoria started back in, well, some time ago, back in 2018. Former Melbourne City youth player as well. He's just, I find him such a fascinating player, Bryce, Yusuf Ahmed. That's 5 goals for the season now, and you consider that he was away on international duty for a fortnight. It's a very good return. He's almost a talismanic player, because he can drift totally out of games, and sometimes Avondale can struggle as a result. But when he's on, he makes things look very easy.
Well, he's, in my opinion, one of the first names you put on the team sheet week in, week out for Avondale. I think, as you said, even if he really isn't finding great form.
Dandenong Thunder. Well, there was a little bit of frustration for Thunder in the lead up to that 4th goal for Avondale, because they had a double sub Adam Pittock's side that they wanted to bring on and weren't allowed to, and they've copped a goal. Now the subs are on. Mohamed Selamovsky and Benjiba. Here is Selamovsky.
We can see Adam Pittock has definitely seen that a lot of his play in the opening 15 minutes of this second half has been down Avondale's left side, so he's given it a complete freshen up. To be fair, it was probably due. Stefan Zinni was being given way too much time and space, so maybe the fresh legs will help Thunder try and regain some sort of composure. But
and for Jay Romanovsky, who's half of his senior NPL appearances in total, in entirety, have come this season, it's a big task for someone who's still coming up to the speed of senior football to have to go for a full 90 against Stefan Zinni, one of the best attackers in the competition, I dare say.
Yeah, and we're going to see a change here for Avondale as well. Some fresh legs coming on. George Ott will go straight into the number 9 position. Yusuf Ahmed is going to drop in to an attacking midfield role next to George Mells. So I think Cuba is definitely one man that has well and truly earned an early mark tonight, given his involvement in the goals.
George Ott returns to George Andrews Reserve, a place that I think you'll have fairly fond memories of, for those who might not have remembered it. Back when he was St Albans in the early rounds of last season, a hat-trick in a 4-4 draw, which I guess technically speaking is still on here at George Andrews, and a 97th minute penalty to equalise for Dinamo. And to add to the good tidings, the good fortune, his last goal for Avondale, that game in Bendigo I mentioned earlier, Bryce, that was the last time George Ott found the back of the net for the Avengers.
Well, he has been a player that has struggled to get regular game time in this Avondale squad this season. Of course, as you mentioned just then, coming across from St Albans mid-season last year. And again, he's one of those players that you could put probably in a handful or close to the majority of other teams in this league, and he'd be a regular starter, having with A-League experience. But again, coming back to the biggest squad and having that depth.
And here's the other substitute, the man who always delivers an impact off the bench in Liston Diaz, but he wasn't able to do so that time around. We were talking in the first half, Bryce, about the depth that Avondale have got at their disposal and how that can, create situations for players who would be walk-up starters in many teams, being not content to sit on the bench, but happy to fight for a place off the bench because of the potential rewards on offer. By my maths, this is Liston Diaz's, I think, somewhere in the vicinity of 16th consecutive appearance off the bench. It's 15 straight sub-appearances across this season and last.
Yeah, and it's a stat that I guess as someone looking to make a career out of football.
And he's still going, looking to get an assist. It's trouble in the middle, but a foul signalled in favour of the Thunder defence. So George Ott, his first involvement in the game for him is to give away a free kick, but Diaz 9 appearances this season, all off the bench, and that's not counting the 6 in the previous year at the end of the season too.
Yeah, and just getting back to the point I was going to make, that you've got a man in that position that would probably get frustrated at a lot of other clubs, that results weren't coming, maybe they felt like they weren't getting a decent look in, but in the squad that they've built here and the mindset across this entire squad, everyone plays a part. So you're going to be given opportunities at different times, squad may be rotated for different matches too, and look, he's going to be given a fair chunk tonight to show the coaching staff that he deserves a starting spot, because him and George Ott have about 30 minutes to make an impact and press their claims moving forward.
Absolutely. Decker dropped down nicely by Selimovsky, but a tough foot race between he and Dargenio, who's lost his footing, and Carrance. Oh, what has happened there?
I'm not sure what he tried to do there.
What on earth has happened there? Somehow, that's a goal kick at the end of everything. Massimo Dargenio, the substitute, who came on in place of Kalilu Kamara, I believe, earlier in the game. The ground just gave way beneath his feet, and Carrans, I think, was almost shocked to have received the ball. That's the only way I could explain or justify it.
Yeah, and I think the attempted finish may have been a scoop at the outside of the right foot. I'm not sure. Not a great angle for us to commentate on, but we're going to see another change here for the home side, Dandenong Thunder, with Danny Dixon coming on.
Oh, George Ott has used his body really nicely here. Will he get another goal against Dandenong Thunder? Yes, he will. It was always coming from the New Zealander. Off the bench, off and away onto the score sheet in quick succession. And George Andrews' reserve is a happy hunting ground for George Ott. He finds himself on the scorers list for the first time this season, and once more on Dandenong Thunder's turf.
Yeah, and it was a well-worked goal too from Avondale as well, so the rewards are definitely there, and that'll make a good household at my brother's house, because he's my brother's housemate, so I'm sure he's got a good trip home tonight. But again, it just goes to show that the strike power they have off the bench for Avondale as well. So, look, I think there's still a good 25 minutes to play here at George Andrews, and I don't feel like we've seen the last of the goals coming in. Lockie?
No, and it was such clever use of the body that time by George Mells. He just sort of guided the ball away from the Thunder defence and really looked unfazed. Pierce Clark did get a bit of a touch en route, but there was a sense of inevitability about George Ott getting on the score sheet again against Dandenong Thunder. I think that's got to be 5 goals in his last 3 appearances against the side from George Andrews' reserve.
There are just some
I wonder what,
players
that's probably a
that
good
aren't
percentage of his actual total NPL goals have come against Thunder exclusively.
Well, that's what you're saying, yeah. There's certain clubs that particular players love to play against for whatever reason. I don't know if it's a mentality or just pure luck, but it's obvious that George Ott does love playing against Dandenong Thunder, particularly on this ground.
And I don't want to shout fire in a crowded room for Thunder fans and doomsday too hard, but I did just have a cursory glance at 4-0 at the NPL Victoria record books. Biggest win in NPL history for Avondale. It was last season where they were scoring goals for fun. A record amount of goals scored in the season. 7-0 against Moreland City. Biggest ever win. They've still got plenty of time to play, and they are 5 goals to the good here at George Andrews. Well, Thunder could well find a goal in their own right, but I think you wouldn't be doing your due diligence as a commentator if you didn't just
No, absolutely not. I think
raise that as a potential possibility.
it's not out of the possibility in this fixture, I think. The way this game is going at the moment, and another chance coming here, 20 minutes is a long time.
And 6 could be on. Liston Diaz charging through, totally unopposed, but for the intervention of Pierce Clark. Well, sometimes when he gets on a run, Liston Diaz, he just resembles a bullet train. He looks as though no force is going to be able to get in his way and knock him off course.
Well, it's like the gates just opened up for him through the corridor there, and using that centre of the park. The way that Thunder are defending, or at least attempting to defend, is that real narrow 4-3-2 formation, as we do see one of the Avondale players in Joey Katabian go to ground.
So not a sight that Avondale will want to see. Just casting my mind back, Bryce. I'm just wondering if they do actually have a substitution window left, Avondale, because they've had to make one.
Yeah, I think they have one left. They had the one in the first
left.
half of Trajewski. Then we had the one about 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
So I believe they would have one left.
Well, I certainly hope for their sake that that's the case. We've had Massimo D'Argenio, of course, come onto the field too. I think the only outfielder remaining on the bench, if they want to or can call on him, is Ethan Pisani, who would be making his first appearance of the season in NPL Victoria. Let's just see what happens here as Katabian has to come off the field of play. Avondale, well, we're back level where the cavalry is concerned, because Thunder are down to 10 through a red and Avondale momentarily down to 10 through injury. And it looks as though Joey Katabian will be fine to continue. And he is back onto the field. So that's a bit of relief for an Avondale side who have already suffered a significant midfield injury today.
If you're in charge of Avondale at the moment, you're 5-0 up, and you've got a player like Joey Katabian, who is clearly a vital part of their starting lineup. Is it worth risking him locking for the remaining 20 minutes?
Yeah, I don't know. I
A
think
player's never going to say that he wants to come off.
you could make an argument that maybe not, but I think you could take it pretty easily and they'll still see out the game comfortably as Ott looks to add to the scoreboard, turning his way into trouble. That time it was Daniel Alessi.
Well, he's done well there, Blake Carpenter, to keep it in and then to win his side a throw-in, because it was a difficult
What a
circumstance.
drop down for Ott, and Mel's just couldn't get the shot away. Sorry to cut you off there, Bryce.
And again, this is going to be another set-piece opportunity from the corner for Avondale, and a chance for the likes of Aiden Bryce to come forward. Got George Ott there, who's another attacking threat from a set-piece.
Corner taken short. Carpenter darts his eyes up, fires the shot away. It takes a big touch, and so it's into a dangerous area, and eventually Thunder able to clear. Just having another look back over that biggest win in Avondale history. 18th of March at Avenger Park, 7-0 against Moreland City. Stefan Zinni also scored 2 goals on that day.
We can definitely see spaces starting to open up, Lockie, in the Dandenong Thunder defence.
El Hayek, a lovely feint, and he does leave his feet in the penalty area, but this time Andrew Memorakis is unmoved. William Boland scored 2 on that day against Moreland City too. Hope he's having a good time over in Western Australia these days, playing for NPLWA side Olympic Kingsway, which is now the home as well, Bryce. I don't know if you knew this, of Joe Knowles, the former gold medalist.
Okay, no, I did not know that.
Their team is absolutely
Stacked. from
Might
what
be
I've
a
heard.
conversation for after full time, but their team is stacked. That's a
Seen some
great
of the
bit of
signings.
control from Diaz, who pokes it through the legs. Another substitute with instant impact again. It's just what he does, Liston Diaz. It is 6-0 Avondale, and it is another goal off the pine for Liston Diaz. He has made, well, he made a habit for himself. Now he's made a name for himself at doing exactly that. Subboard comes up, he comes on, the scoreline changes. That's usually the result.
Yeah, and a pleasing sign for the coaching staff of Avondale. Substitutes making an immediate impact in this game, and George Ott, now Diaz, contributing to the scoreboard.
We are definitely approaching historic territory now, 6-0. And I've looked at it from an Avondale perspective. I might have to keep digging through the record books to see what it might look like for a Thunder perspective. I think we're still a few goals off biggest lost territory, but I will just have to double check. Just to follow up on that Olympic Kingsway thought, Aaron Williams is also at that
Yes.
team as well. So they are absolutely stacked with talent.
For that league, it's definitely a stacked team, and
Yeah. Carpenter gives chase, but it was a bit of a lost cause, and there's a bit of spice between he and Sevdim Ismaili. You mentioned Yusuf Ahmed's connection to Dandenong Thunder. Of course, Carpenter's played here too. This was his first club in Victorian football. Scored against Avondale for the Thunder back in the day. And you were right about the substitution windows, Bryce, because we will have another sub in a short space of time, but will he be entering into a potentially historic scoreline as down goes a player? It's Stefan Zinni.
yeah, that
It's
had
a
to be given.
penalty.
Yeah, definitely had to be given Lockie, I think. An unnecessary attempt from the Dandenong Thunder defender. And it does result in a yellow card as well.
Well, we're staring down a bit of history being equalled here. A potential biggest ever winning margin for the Avengers. And Stefan Zinni, Bryce, is eyeing up his hat-trick.
Well, it's not undeserved in my opinion.
Oh, no,
He's
absolutely
definitely
not.
had opportunities, and he's worked his space well tonight to try and find those opportunities. And look, if it comes in the assistance of a shot from the penalty spot, well, you'll take it.
Well, Pierce Clark has already been called into action from the spot once tonight and produced a very fine save. The question remains as to whether or not Stefan Zinni can get it done on this occasion. There's a lot on the line. A 7th goal and his hat-trick. All in readiness at George Andrews as Zinni converts. 7th heaven for Avondale. And Stefan Zinni with a hat-trick that he has well and truly earned tonight.
And the scoreline is definitely reflecting the way that this game has fallen in favour of the away side, causing absolute havoc on Dandenong Thunder's attempts to get anything out of this game. It's well and truly shut now for the home side. But I can't really say yet for the away side that their goal scoring attempts are done the way it's been falling.
No, that is true. And the game is a bit of a foregone, has been a bit of a foregone conclusion since about goal 4 or goal 5.
Yeah.
But, it won't be the final 25, 30 minutes of this game that the Thunder will focus on. They'll have a look at the bits where the opening 2011 v 11, they had some great chances. Probably the 10 minutes either side of the halftime interval, really, where they were down to 10 and still managed to test Tom Manos actually quite a few times.
Well, this is going to be a very questionable comment to make from a lot of people joining us on the stream right now, but there has actually been quite a number of positives to take out of this for the Dandenong Thunder. Before the red card, halfway through the first half, we definitely did see plenty of opportunities to go forward, but even at the back end of the first half with 10 men, they created a lot of chances, as you said, and look, I think Adam Pittick this week will review the game and he'll see that they did actually take it to one of the best sides, if not the best side in NPL Victoria, and they're capable of doing it. I think the discipline has gone a bit astray in his second half, and it's opened the floodgates up a little bit. But again, that comes with fatigue, having to defend a man down.
Has that not been, in some respects, the story of this season so far for Thunder, that they've had a lot of workable, inspiring, positive moments, but it's just been tricky, given all the turbulence, to ride that out over the course of a full 90 minutes?
Yeah, and I think obviously the coaching change a number of weeks before round one hasn't helped, but now 10 weeks
there
in,
are absolutely extenuating circumstances.
But to me, Thunder have been playing on an emotional ride, as it could be described. I think they've tried to get games into situations where they've got something to motivate them and drive them across 90 minutes, and whether that's a strong challenge or something like that, to really fire the team up on the park, because there have been times, I'm being honest, where I've commentated their games and they've been quite lacklustre and lacked sort of the drive to go forward, but at other times too, they've looked like one of the top sides in the league. So they're going to have to find that balance. That's going to have to come from the coaching staff of, is it the emotional balance, the physical balance of how they'd go forward, maybe across the next 4 to 5 weeks, and really reset themselves going forward. Having the likes of someone like Korf out tonight hasn't helped, because he's definitely an attacking option. But yeah, I think it's how they accommodate these challenges going forward.
They're still trying to throw a couple of punches here and there, but it is just, as we said in the first half, Bryce, that there is no team you would want to play with 10 against less, I dare say, than Avondale. Maybe South Melbourne, because their set-piece prowess is not easy to defend with 11, let alone 10. Of course, they've got a lot of attacking firepower in their own right.
And look,
South,
you can even throw Oakley into that mix too.
Oh yeah,
personally,
that's a very good shout.
But at the same time too, a lot of people look at the score of this and say, "Oh, what's happened to George Andrews tonight?" But at the same time too, there's a lot of sides that were playing Avondale in the same circumstances that they are Dandenong Thunder, and would be on the same end of the result, or if not, potentially even worse. So it's not all doom and gloom. Even the scoreboard does say 7-0. There's definitely things that they can take out of this.
It's true. I did have a quick look over the other side of the coin in terms of big margins. It wouldn't be Thunder's biggest loss in history. That was at this ground in March 2018. Round 2, they lost 9-0 against South Melbourne. They could be in a spot of bother here, though. The record isn't quite safe just yet. Mells gets the eyes up, returns to Liston Diaz, who just is in no rush, and nor should he be.
This is what I like about Avondale, particularly this season. They're showing a lot more patience than we have seen in previous seasons gone by, and that's an example there where they may have rushed in the past to try and find the 3 wide sticks, where other clubs still might be in a position where they just want to force a strike away, where they're happy to enter the 18-yard box and come back out.
Katabian. They don't force the issue, as in foolishly. They do everything, I think, is what you're saying, Bryce, with a purpose. And even with that being said, and I think you're absolutely right, that they're not going to stop trying to hunt for goals eventually. It's a matter of when and not if. As Liston Diaz, the turf gave way beneath his feet. He nearly pulled off a very nice nutmeg, but it's a goal kick in the end. I'll give you, Bryce, $10 if you can name the scorers from South Melbourne's 9-0 win against Dandenong Thunder on the 3rd of March in 2018.
I'm going to say Harrison Sawyer, without even knowing if he was at the club.
It was in 2018, so you won. You're a couple of years too early.
I'm probably a bit early. I'm going to say Milos Luic.
Yes, he scored 3 of them.
I'm going to say Brad Norton would have been on there.
No, he's not. Ooh. He's not, but he was in the team. I'll put you out of your misery.
Okay.
Maybe at the end of this. Maybe at the end of this Thunder attack.
I've got a left field option for you as well.
Okay, I'll listen. And is that a
Tim
free
Marler.
kick? Tim Marler's a good shout. Tim Marler was not playing, but you're in the right ballpark. Andy Brennan.
Okay.
Nick Epifano scored 2. What a name that is.
There you go.
Lee Monopolis, and you're in the right ballpark with going for the defenders, because Matthew Fascini was the 9th goal, or the, you know, one
There you
of the,
go.
one of the
I
goal
was
scorers
in the
90
ballpark of
result.
an overlapping right back.
So,
I reckon I get half a point for that.
yes. And we're not, mercifully for Thunder, quite in that territory just yet. We are into the final 5 minutes, so I
Who
would...
was that against? Sorry? Did you say?
South Melbourne. South Melbourne v Thunder
Yeah, okay.
here at George Andrews. But I think we're probably safe from that record being touched, especially if Thunder gets something back here, but that's not the best free kick in the end. It just never really dipped down as it swung in from the right-hand side.
Well, the pleasing thing for Thunder fans is Avondale don't look like they're in any rush to get the game
No.
resumed. So I think they're quite content with
No, I feel
sitting on the
like
scoreboard.
I feel like 7-0 sends a pretty clear...
It's a statement.
It sends
Let's be real.
7-0, as far as I'm concerned, sends a fairly clear message. I mean, Stefan Zinni is still on the field, so maybe he's thinking about a 4-goal haul. Perhaps. I mean, this is his first NPL Victoria hat-trick since the 4th of May 2019. And he scored all 3 against Altona Magic. Well, I won't ask you for the scorers on that day. It'll be a much easier question.
That'd be a tough one for me to answer.
Stefan Zinni, Stefan Zinni, Stefan Zinni. Can Thunder pull back a consolation goal? Something to give them a bit of hope. It is 10 goals conceded without scoring in the last fortnight for them. It's tough stuff.
I will give a bit of credit here, as we have sort of discredited Dandenong Thunder for the last 2 minutes in terms of results. But to their credit with this match here, in particular the second half, they have found the half spaces quite well. They're trying to find the right channels, and they're still trying to play to it. They're not resorting to just going direct, and that again is a reflection of Adam Pittick's style as a football coach and how he likes his teams to play. So even with a man down there, still trying to play to his philosophy of the game. And
yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah.
It would have been so easy to sort of hunker down and give up, even after just being 2-0 down and going down to 10. Yes, have they copped a few more on the scoreline as a result, perhaps, but they didn't die wondering in this game. As Carpenter has slipped in behind, he looks to get in on the act. And, well, he'll play a key role, but it'll be an own goal in the end, an 8th. And so Avondale on track for their biggest win in NPL Victoria history, breaking their own record from last season.
yeah, I think for a second there, a few of the Avondale players want to try and claim it, but that was definitely a goal that was assisted by a Dandenong Thunder player, and it does bring up the 8 with 3 minutes plus stoppage time remaining.
Well, we should probably stop being charitable and nice to Adam Pittick's side, because every time we seem to praise them, something bad seems to happen. Jordan Smiley, great game, instant red card. Yeah, but there's actually been good things about this 7-0 loss.
Yeah.
Scored 8,
Well,
8 goes in.
The serious factor out of that goal was that it really came with quite ease for Avondale, which is a little concerning. I know the Thunder players, they look a bit deflated, and it would be hard to play on the end of a 7-0.
But I think
scoreline,
it will be easy to forget that, you know, at 2-0, either side of the half, Thunder had some massive chances to score in this
Yeah.
game. And
Yeah.
that would have only been, you know, to pull it back, not to equalise or anything like that. But I'll tell you what, Bryce, as we just maybe have a bit of a look ahead to the upcoming fixtures as we close out round 10 of NPL Victoria with a shellacking. How big now does that game next week between Thunder and St Albans become? It was already massive, but I'll hold that thought for the moment as Carpenter hurdles forward. That's a good challenge from Shevdi Mishmaili. That game here at George Andrews Reserve against managerless St Albans Saints. Both teams down the bottom quadrant of the table. That is a massive, massive fixture. And St Albans, from all reports, gave a very good account of themselves last night against the Oakley Cannons, going down 4-2 at Jack Edwards Reserve, but being well in with a shout of getting more out of the game.
Well, I'll put the question back on you, Lockie. it's going to be a big game for both sides, but who does it become more of an important game for in terms of the context of going forward? And do I dare even say in round 11, avoid that relegation zone?
Well, the good thing is for teams in that position where you're hovering just above the relegation area, it does look as though only one team will go down, and Moreland City have made it. There's a lot of time still left in the season. There are still 16 games to go, but they have made it tricky for themselves with 0, 0 and 10 to start the season. But yeah, to lose here at home, a 5th straight defeat at home against a St Albans team with no manager would, I reckon, leave a pretty sour taste. It's a little bit easier going for Avondale next week. They play Gully. Of course, there is cup football to come in between now and then too. Of course, Avondale will be in action against Altona East Phoenix, a State League-based outfit. As we come to a close here, well, mark it down in your notebook, in your history book. Avondale have created another slice this season. 8-0 winners at George Andrews Reserve, their biggest win in NPL Victoria history. And it had plenty of spice and drama in the first half, which really set the tone for what was to come. Avondale opened the scoring early. Thunder were reduced to 10, a poor challenge from Jordan Smiley, which has seen a severe injury sustained by Christian Trycheski, and that left Avondale with a sour taste in their mouth, and they responded with force, with aggression. A second goal to the halftime whistle, and then 6 straight unanswered in the second 45. Stefan Zinni bringing up his hat-trick to headline a statement scoreline in the southeast of Victoria.
It is a bit of a gloomy feel here at George Andrews Reserve tonight, and if you are Adam Pittick at the moment, there's not really too much you can say on the back of an 8-0. Well, the only way you can describe it is a thumping, really, but a lot to take out of this for them moving forward into a big clash next week, and also some very positive signs for Avondale. And as you said, Lockie, you wouldn't want to be facing them the next couple of weeks because they're a side that is in red-hot form.
Well, if they made a statement last week with the win, their first in nearly 9 years against Oakley at Jack Edwards last week, then if that was a statement, then this is a all-points bulletin through a megaphone that Avondale are flying once more in NPL Victoria. 8-0 winners they run out at George Andrews Reserve, and they leave the home side with a lot of soul-searching to do before a big clash back at home against St Albans Saints next week. So, well, thank you if you've been tuning in on the NPL Victoria live stream for joining us for what is a historic night for Avondale, and a night that Dandenong Thunder will quickly look to forget. From myself, Lockie Flanagan, and from Bryce Ruthven, it's goodbye for now.